Today we're here to talk about what's new in Gradescope. So to get going, the first thing I wanted to do is for some of you, Quick Bites might be a new format of what STLI offers. These are 30-minute Zoom sessions. We typically do them at lunchtimes, either on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Thursdays. We take a learning lab approach in these sessions. We want to be very kind of hands-on, give you practical action steps that you can put into practice very quickly. So for today, we're going to get started with Gradescope at William & Mary. We're going to talk about availability, cost, etc. We're going to talk for you, the folks that are already using Gradescope. There's a new integration with Blackboard, which is very important to most of your students, and for you, how you're working with Gradescope. We're going to have Christy Walker, who is our Blackboard administrator, give us a little session on that. And then new in Gradescope, we're going to talk about the new demo courses, which is a great feature. It's something that I had actually been requesting that they do for a while. We're going to talk about answer grouping functionality, versioning of assignments, the use of stickers and emojis when you're grading papers as a way of saving time. We're going to talk a little bit about improved statistics and anonymity, two areas that are important in how we use Gradescope on campus. We're going to talk about bubble sheets assignments and answer grouping. Finally, there's a little section that we'll talk about on accessibility, which is just sort of a notice. It's a request actually for you to help us out. So Gradescope at William & Mary is a free tool for you and your students. It's available for basically any course at William & Mary. STLI has been able to work with IT and the provost office, and we have renewed our license. So you basically have unlimited access to using Gradescope in your courses. Gradescope is also integrated with Blackboard, which is a really nice feature because it'll make your life easier. One of the really important things that we found with Gradescope is that it saves you time, and it also provides better and quicker feedback to your students on assignments that they turn in, or exams, quizzes, etc. So it's available for any course, free for everyone to use, and it's integrated with Blackboard with a new tool. So we're going to turn this over to Christy right now, who's going to talk a little bit about how the integration has changed things, and a couple of things to keep an eye on if you're using Gradescope.
Thanks, Pablo. As Pablo said on the previous screen, it was just an example of how you can go to gradescope.com, log in with your William & Mary credentials, and you can also get to your dashboard. But what I want to specifically go over today is how you integrate this into your Blackboard course so that you have access and your students have access to your assignments. So I've also shared a document at the end that Pablo will show. It's a PDF that gives these directions, so you don't have to write down everything today. But what I'm going to do is share my screen and go over these with you. As Pablo just stated, we did integrate into Blackboard with a new LTI. So it is a little different when you activate it for your courses for those that have used it before. So you're going to log in, go to your course, and I'm going to show that here in this screen. And the first thing that you're going to do is go to your content area where you'll be using Gradescope. I'm just going to go to an assignments area that I have here in the demo course. You're going to want to go to tools, more tools. That's important that you expand the more tools option. And you're looking for Gradescope course. So once you click on this, it's going to ask you to make it available. And you're going to go down, you can say submit. From there, it's going to give you the Gradescope icon that you will click on to integrate your roster into the Gradescope environment from Blackboard. Okay, and you'll see here, it gives you the pop-ups. I'm not sure if you can see this, but you'll say a new Gradescope course. You do have access to integrate an existing one if you have something in there. We're going to do a new course. And it'll let you go through your course settings also to set up the information. The next step would be going to your roster in the Gradescope dashboard. And what you're going to want to do is sync your Blackboard roster so that your students will have access to your assignments and will populate. We just recently did a new LTI, and that's why you're seeing these two icons, which we're still working on fixing, and hopefully we'll have this resolved by the end of the semester. But you're probably have already synced your roster if you've integrated this. So you will just see one that will say sync Blackboard roster, okay? And that will appear.
And
The
we'd love
next
to get
thing I want to
feedback.
show,
Christy, can I add that we'd love to get feedback from you all if you're not seeing those. It might be that only shows up with classes that were created under the previous LTI, but let us know if you're having problems with that. I think that Christy is going to be keeping a pulse on that.
yes, most definitely. The other thing is, once you've integrated this, you've synced your roster, you now can go to build content. And if you'll notice in the build content area, you can create a Gradescope assignment. So this will attach it to your Blackboard course. And it's going to walk you through the process where you can link in an existing assignment, or you can do a new one. And Pablo's, of course, going to go over some of the features today that you can attach these to for your Blackboard assignment. So this is just like a really quick snippet of how you can access this and integrate it into your Blackboard course. And of course, we can take questions at the end, but I know we're on a time crunch, Pablo, so I'm going to let you take back over.
Thank you. Sorry. Oh, let me share my screen again here. All right. Hopefully everybody can see the screen again. So let's talk about some of the new features in Gradescope itself. So the first one that I want to show you is the new demo courses. So this is a feature we've been asking for a while for Gradescope to develop. For folks who are getting started, demo courses can be really useful because it allows them to play with pre-existing data without actually having to generate it all from scratch. So let's take a look at what the demo courses look like. What you're going to have to do to get to those demo courses is when you are in Gradescope, you'll typically pop in and you'll only see your most recent courses, which for me were back in fall of 22. But there's a toggle here below that that either says show the older courses or hide them. If you hide them, you won't see the demo courses unless you're just getting started. The demo courses always show up in the first semester that you actually used Gradescope as an instructor. There's two new demo courses. There's these two that are previously existing, which are Gradescope 101 and 202. They're still there and available for you to play with. The two that I want to talk about today are, there is one called Gradescope Tutorial, which actually does a really nice walkthrough of just getting you started. So there's a knowledge base button here. If you click on the demo exam, it'll start guiding you through what you need to do. There are nice little blue buttons that appeared with notes that you can follow through just some of the basics of getting started. So that's something that's available to all of you if you're an instructor. The other one is the assignment examples, which is a really good fleshed out example with, I think they have 8 areas, 8 different types of assessments that they're taking you through. And these are populated with student submissions. So for instance, you can go to the biology exam and you can see what, a sort of a typical biology exam question might look like and how you might go about grading it. So that's the demos. It's a great feature. If you're just getting started with using Gradescope, I strongly recommend that you check it out. It's also a great way to train TAs. If you have TAs who have never used Gradescope in the TA role, they're really fantastic for training your TAs to be able to do this. And again, they've tried to do a pretty reasonable example from lots of different disciplines. The next feature I want to talk to you about is, sorry, too many screens open, answer grouping. So we've had answer grouping for quite a while. There is a feature that I actually can't really show you today very easily. The feature is you could have handwritten or drawings, and there's an AI answer grouping function when you get your student responses. And Gradescope will group them. Now, if you have really large classes, let's say you have as happens here, sometimes 300 students who've just taken an exam, they try to do a grouping, and sometimes because of the load on the system, the AI grouping sort of grinds down and it gets to be very slow. In the past, you just had to wait for it to finish. Now, after 2 minutes, if you're still waiting for it, you can bypass the wait and just take whatever has been grouped at that point at the 2-minute mark, and then just finish off grouping on your own. The other function that is new here in answer grouping is, let me show you, let me go back in this screen here. Let me go back to the assignment examples and let's try the biology exam. So if we go to this question, the one that I just had up on mitochondria, here are some groups that have that were AI generated. So you have mitochondria, chloroplast, and other, which includes things that just didn't fit these other categories. If I click on the folks that answered mitochondria, I can hover over this button, and there are times, especially with the others, the things that don't group nicely. You will be able to preview the exam in context. So you couldn't do this before. Before, you could only see the grouped answer in a little cutout, but now you can actually very quickly back up and see the whole exam that goes around that answer. Next feature that I wanted to mention is version sets. So give me a show of hands. Have any of you used versioning in their exams in Gradescope? So it looks like nobody has. So one of the nice things that you can do in Gradescope is you can have different versions of exams. And these can be versions that have different questions. They can even have different set number of questions, different orders. And it's very quick to develop versioned exams. And the sets will allow you to group different versions of an exam. So let's say you have a large course with 5 different lecture groups and you're teaching with several instructors. Each instructor might have a version of that exam. You can now group them very quickly, and this allows you to post a single grade center column in Blackboard from the version set, rather than having, in the past, you used to have midterm exam, version A, version B, version C. Now these are all can be grouped. They can be published or unpublished as a group rather than individually. Again, for folks who have smaller classes, this doesn't make much of a difference. But if you're teaching one of the larger classes at William and Mary, Pat, I see you there, this might apply to you. And you can also email all students with different versions of an exam together. So what does that look like? So what I did is I created a course with just a very simple version. So what that looks like is I have, in this Geology 352 class, I have a midterm exam A and B version. And I can group these. Sorry, I can, hold on. Sorry. I know Gradescope, but I don't use it every day. So sometimes it takes me a little bit longer. If you go into assignments, you can see where your assignments are, and then you can organize exam versions here very quickly. You can have exam A and exam B and so forth, and you can name it. Let's call this midterm. So when you upload this to Blackboard, instead of seeing two different columns for the different versions, you'll only see one. This also makes it much simpler for your students who in the past might be looking at columns that they didn't have a grade in, and it might raise questions about which version they took. And this just keeps everything tidier and simpler. We're a fairly small group, so feel free to chime in if you have any questions. Does anybody have any questions with what we've covered so far? Adam, anything coming in? Okay.
Not yet, but I'm monitoring the chat just in case.
Okay, thank you. Next one is stickers and emojis. This is not a sort of a huge feature, but it's one that can actually can introduce a little bit of fun and make your grading a little bit simpler. So in the past, you have been able to do hand annotation. You've been able to add text notes to assignments. And now you can also add stickers and emojis. Let's see, let's try that with, sorry, we're gonna close that window. We're gonna try that with one of the other courses. Let's go here. And let's try with the physics exam. So here's a question that you might be grading in physics. And what I've done here is that you now have this little button here that looks like a star, and you can use one of 5 basic stickers that you can put on. So you can add check marks, as I've done here, for every step of the way as they go through it. I can add this sort of 100% emoji. Sorry, I've added more than one now. But after you add them, you can resize them so that they're a little bit more legible. It's just a quick way to, without doing large text annotations, you can add check marks. There is even a full set of other emojis that you could add. I imagine that people won't be using these too much, but you could use them in your grading. So that is stickers and emojis. Statistics. So one of the great things that we can do with a Gradescope that you can't do with traditional grading is you have really detailed and good statistics when you give an exam. So they've improved the statistics a little bit. They were very good to start with, but you can now filter by versions. You can filter by tags if you generate tags for your questions. So for instance, if you ask a question about, let's say, in an economics class that had to do with macroeconomics, you could tag it with macroeconomics or micro or market trends, whatever that tag is. And then when you look at the statistics for how folks did on a large exam, you can see on how they did on sub topics within your course. So let's take a quick look at that, what that looks like. We'll go to the let's see, I think that was the bubble sheet is a good example of that. So we'll go to the bubble sheet exam. Here's something else that we're going to be talking about. I'll mention it now. Is this when you're grading bubble sheets? I know that some of you might be considering using bubble sheets. In the past, how marks that were uncertain were tagged in a way that took longer for you to discern how to score them. Now you can see that, like for question 1 out of this 20 question bubble sheet. For question 1, there are 3 uncertain marks, and you can come in and you could see it, and you could decide how this should be scored. So, for instance, I would think that in this top example, the student meant to first hit crossed out C, or filled out C and then crossed it out. So I would say that that's an A answer. I would say that this is an A answer also, that they crossed out D, and so forth. Sometimes you can, in bubble sheets, you can use either one single answer, you can use a set of answers, or you can give partial credit based on either answer that you supply. But if we want to look at the statistics of how students did here, we can click here and we can see question by question what percentage of students got these questions correctly or got them right or wrong. You can do it for versions. This one is unfortunately not tagged right now, but each one of these questions could be tagged with what aspect of the knowledge that they are developing this was meant to assess. And you could see how they did by a specific tag. So this is really powerful. This is a tool that is not going to influence how your students interact with Gradescope, but it certainly can inform you in terms of how this exam did it as a tool of testing, assessing your students' skills. So that's improved statistics. The bubble sheet uncertain marks we just spoke about a little bit. We touched on. This is an improvement again. Anonymity is an important one. You know, at William and Mary, unlike some other institutions that use Gradescope, we tend to have more undergraduate TAs grading than at other institutions. If you have a graduate student who's doing your grading, anonymity is not as important. But in any class where, especially undergraduates, might have received a waiver to participate as a grading TA in a class, if they're an undergraduate student, you want to ensure that they are grading in an anonymous, completely anonymous way. In the past, there was sort of a hidden little back door that students could use to see how who they were grading. But now, under the settings, you can very quickly, just with one click, enable anonymous grading. And that button was there before. You save that. And now when you go to see these exams, they are absolutely, let's see here, they are completely anonymized as far as whose paper is being graded. Adam, I'm seeing some stuff in chat. Are there questions coming in?
No, it's mostly me
Okay.
dropping in pro tips, but I do have a question actually.
Yep.
So the tagging feature was new to me under the stats. I understand how that works. Is it possible to cross tab questions? So for example, if understanding if they got question 4 wrong, did they also get question 10 wrong or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that there are crosstabs at this point, but one of the things that we've discovered with Gradescope, you know, I think that the pandemic may have taken a small little bite out of them in terms of this, but they are, out of all of the digital platform companies that we work with here at William and Mary, or at least I have, they are the most responsive to requests. So that would be a great request to put in. I don't think you can do it right now. I think that you can look at the tabs, the tagged questions, and look at how they did it in specific sub areas. But it would be great to be able to say, okay, if they did, how did students do in market dynamics versus macroeconomics in an econ class, and do some sort of cross-tab analysis of how they did in those. So yeah, that would be a great feature to have, Adam. We should put that in. Okay, and then finally, the last one that I have is accessibility. So Gradescope, it's a difficult product and platform to make fully accessible, because a lot of it is it works based on paper and pen and scans and visual feedback. But they've really worked hard on improving the accessibility of Gradescope. They've added alt text to all images that are used, so that you can include alt text information for all images. They've improved color contrast and screen reader compatibility. They had some minor issues with color blindness. Again, it's related to color contrast, but it's specific sets, and they've made some improvements there. And across the board, how some of the statistics are shown, and how the buttons function. But what I wanted to ask is to please let Gradescope know if your students report any accessibility issues. This is something that is apparently very near and dear to their heart right now, and they're putting a lot of effort into it. So please let me or Christy know if you have students who are having accessibility issues in Gradescope, or we can sit down and contact Gradescope and see how we might be able to work through these. I've also put together some resources for you all. We will share this with everybody who attended or RSVP'd for this. These links will be live. And if you have 1 minute, which I think we have left, or maybe not, but you can scan in this QR code and give us feedback on how we did today.